Please be seated. Welcome everyone to the meeting tonight, councillors, officers, public and press, and anyone who may be viewing online. A special welcome to the newly elected councillor John Morgan, who was elected to Greenland Ward in December by-election. Welcome. Can I please remind councillors to turn their microphones on while speaking and to turn them off again once they have finished, otherwise you will not be heard on the broadcast. Apologies, any official apologies for absence? No. Declarations of interest. Councillors need to declare an interest in items on the agenda. And can I please remind councillors that you should declare the agenda and the item you wish to declare, and reference, and the type of interest you have and the reason why you have an interest. No, excellent. Minutes of the meeting held on 18th of November. Can I take these minutes as a true and correct record? Thank you. And minutes taken and held on the 26th of November. Please can I take these as a true and correct record? Thank you. Announcements. I'm just going to make one. I have now secured a place to have the Mayor's Ball, which will be on the 17th of April in the Spanish Hall at the Winter Gardens. So please save the date, and I will be in touch soon with send out any invitations and things. But thank you. Mr. White, as a public representation, Mr. White has notified that he's withdrawn his request to speak this evening, so he significant positive changes in subject matter being raised, so Mr. White will not be here this evening. Moving on to executive reports and combined fire authority reports, pages 15 to 58. Can I just remind members that after each executive member has presented their request, questions will be called on each theme. The executive member will answer a question after it has been raised, and if members have a question on the same subject, these can be grouped together and given a response. Thank you. Moving on to the Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Councillor Lynn Williams, to present the report on the two themes on the report tonight are one, the budget overview, and 2025 season review. Over to you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. First, before presenting my report, I just wanted to make a short announcement that in relation to City of Culture and Town of Culture, that the Council, when I say we, are working with Arts Council England Place Partnership Funded Creative Blackpool Development Group and all the other arts and heritage groups across the town, reviewing both bids with a view to submitting an expression of interest. If successful in its bid, Blackpool would receive 10 million for city status or 3 million for town status from the government towards a year-long celebration of arts and culture for local people to enjoy, as well as increasing the tourism economy and creating new jobs. Blackpool is, of course, the birthplace of entertainment in the north. Our town grew around offering a cultural alternative to the smoke-filled cities of Manchester and Liverpool in the 19th century. 150 years later, and that culture lives on in Blackpool, more than most other places in the country. We boast a town that hosts magic conventions, light shows, drag artists, West End shows, museums and an art gallery, as well as three of the most ornate venues in the country, the Tower Ballroom, Winter Gardens Opera House and Blackpool Grand Theatre. Blackpool's place in the country's heritage is undeniable. We had artificial electric sunshine in the resort 12 months before Edison invented the light bulb, and the country's oldest continuously operating tramway, the oldest roller coaster and the oldest operating theme park. To top it all off, 2029 will be the year that we celebrate 150 years of the UK's most loved and original three-light show, Blackpool Illuminations. I'm sure we will all support that bid. Thank you. I'm happy to present my report and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Despite standing here for some time, for a few years, we've heard nothing but the end of, no end of comments about Tory austerity. We were promised that Labour was going to deliver us into the promised land. I don't see the Labour government doing that at the moment or anytime soon. Now, I know, Leader, that you have fought an admirable case to get us a decent settlement, but I would like to know, and I'm sure the rest of the council would, if you could, the settlement that you were offered. Can you tell us what the gap is between what we would actually need and what you've been offered without us having to slash our services further? Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Well, I mean, last year we had an 11% increase, and this year we're still in discussions, as I've said in my report, about which can only be the unintended consequences of alterations to the calculation around children and deprivation. I can't tell you the gap because it's a moving feast. So I met with Steve Thompson this morning, and the figure I'm sure will have changed. So it would, I think, just we are going to set a budget. It will be clear, it will be deliverable, and it will be robust. But we continue to work on that figure because we are still in conversation, very much in those discussions with government to ensure that we put Blackpool's case and the issues to further assist in terms of setting the budget, but it will be done.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's the same theme, if I may. No, it's okay. In light of the context of the leader's response, we are 2 to 3 weeks away before we have to set that budget, bearing in mind we have 7 days before it goes to the executive, 7 days before it comes here. Time is so short. We know our working balances, to put it into context, are around 335,000. Our fixed reserves are the lowest they've been in 12 or so years, at 17 million. We have 7 million overspends in children's, 5 million in overspends in adults. Our Section 151 officer has announced his retirement. Our finances are in a mess. The very fact, Madam Mayor, that our leader of this council, at this point, so close to the budget, doesn't even know what the budget gap is. The gap between what we need to spend and what we are going to get frightens me. Can you give us some assurance, Council Leader, that you will be able to answer that question imminently for the good of this town?
I don't think I said I didn't know. I just said I didn't feel it was right because the figure's changing. So this isn't, the budget work goes on all year. This, in terms of, and this goes back through all the years of austerity because we've had to, because of how we have been, the cuts and the financial position that the council have been working on. So this isn't just a moment of lots of work leading up the weeks before. This is all year, week in, week out, working on the budget, whenever it's set for this year, and in terms of setting the new budget. We've actually used a new calculation for figures for working balances, more scientific. Ordinarily, most places use, I think, 5%. We've done actually a proper calculation, which will work out. I think working balances, the aim will be 7.78 million, and we're certain that those working balances will be restored to that level. So yes, I can give you that reassurance.
Councillor Scott, is it on the same subject? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Year after year I've sat here and listened from the other side about how awful the Tory government was, how poorly it was funding this town, and how much better Labour were going to be, and yet look at where we are. I can only imagine you must be very disappointed at how badly Labour is looking to let this town down with its funding. I could say I told you so, but I wouldn't be so cruel. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, well, I mean, year after year, 14 years this council withstood under your party, Councillor Scott. So no, it's impossible for any government to come in within 1 year to repair, and certainly to make good the 1.8 billion that was removed from the people of this town by your party. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions are now on 2025 season review? Councillor Galley.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. As it's tourism related, I wanted to bring up the subject of Blackpool Tram Town, if I may, Madam Mayor. And I know a large number of the public have come, a large number of people will be watching. I was hugely concerned. I put a huge amount of my life into it, as have many, many people. The leader of the council came and opened it 4 years ago. In that time, Madam Mayor, the members of Tram Town, as it's grown and grown, have given themselves in order to protect a key part of this town's culture, a key part of this country's culture. And they've, over those years, been given promise after promise. They've seen a number of things decline in that time. They've seen the engineering staff made redundant. They've seen no investment in the buildings. They've seen no grants made for them to support them. And in that journey, they feel thoroughly let down. We get to the most recent point where we find out that officers, members of a transport company are working to prepare for the demolition of the home of Tram Town, and it is the final straw for them, Madam Mayor. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And in that spirit, that this is the hill that this battle must be fought for the protection of this town's culture, at a time when we're losing so much, the things that we care and we love. This is why so many people are so angry, because they've given so much of themselves and had so little support from this council, when all they've really ever had is promises, and those promises feel more and more broken, which is why I made the video I did, because I care deeply, as I know members do, and I thought that this is now being made by officers and others and not the elected members of this town. So in that spirit of us working together, Madam Mayor, I've emailed the council leader the questions I intended to ask tonight. There are no gotcha moments here. This is purely people that care about our culture and the infrastructure that we need for it to sustain itself. So the questions that I wanted to ask the council leader, if I may, Madam Mayor, were, will you support that the tram fitting shop is not demolished, allowing time for funding bids to be developed and submitted and repairs carried out? The creation of a Tram Town steering group that I'm setting up, involving council officers, our very talented head of communications to be included, our ward councillors from the area, Tram Town volunteer representatives, and then the ability for us to communicate effectively with officers in the room together and not have decisions made behind our back in the spirit that works against us, because we're all told something different. Depending on who you talk to. Ultimately, we want to become part of the Blackpool Heritage Museum Trust, Madam Mayor, to support and coordinate funding bids. This does not require money from the public purse. We have to stop pretending and tell the truth.
Thank you, Pam. Councillor Brooks.
Yes, thank you, Lady Mayor. I'd just like to ask a question, really, whether Councillor Galley, or is it Volunteer Galley, is it Tram Town Galley, is it Reform Party member Galley? Where are we in terms of that last contribution? I mean, because I saw the video, Councillor Galley, and I thought, is he the one that's going to defect to Reform because he's adopted their policies of putting stuff on social media without recourse to truth or actual facts or the Nolan principles? I was confused when I saw that, Councillor Galley. Or is it Volunteer Galley? Were you acting as a volunteer? Were you acting as a councillor when you made those remarks in the video in a public building in the Tram Town area? Because I'll say this to you, that I'm really, really disappointed. When I became a councillor, I adopted the Nolan principles, the top of which is honesty. Honesty, openness, integrity. They're all there. How can you stand there as the chairman of Blackpool Transport Company and the Tram Town volunteers at the time the original plans to demolish the tram sheds were made and planning applications made, and then come here following that video claiming you're whiter than white? I'm not having it. It's absolute nonsense, and you should own up to that.
Any more questions on the second theme? Councillor O'Neill, and then Councillor
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a point of clarification there. Councillor Brooks, you've accused us of breaching the... You said reform. There are 3 members of reform here. Which member of us are you accusing of breaching the Northern principles, or would you like to retract that aspect of your statement?
I think, Councillor O'Neill, I wasn't accusing reform, I was accusing Councillor Galley of adopting reform tactics. I know your stance on this, Councillor, and I fully support and endorse that.
Councillor Ellison. And then
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I wanted to bring up the trams as well. Obviously, having seen on Facebook the fact that the depot was going to be demolished, it was very concerning. I'll have mentioned the trams quite a few times now, and there is a lot of concern in the area that, the trams are going to be stopped, and so this has brought that back to the surface again. So I've got a few questions. I did see a Facebook post from the Labour group answering some questions, and it did say that if it got demolished, the trams would be kept safe and dry in the depot. Well, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I'm aware, it's not safe and it's not dry. I believe that nobody's been able to go in there for a while and the roof is falling in, so it's not safe, it's not dry, and it is concerning that those trams are not going to have a safe, dry place to be stored while any other Tramtown plan is coming out. So I've got a few questions. One, I wondered why there has been such a delay. The Tramtown plan's been out 3-4 years. Why has that not come into fruition? Why is it still waiting for funding? Why hasn't there been any funding so far? And also, why has both the depot and the workshop been allowed to fall into such disrepair that the only option left is demolition? Because it's, as I've said numerous times, those trams are so important. And as you've just discussed, the arts and culture and heritage of this area is something we're going to be celebrating. So we need to keep those trams and keep those trams running. Thank you.
Councillor Galley.
So, thank you. I'm hoping that might answer some of your queries in what I'm going to say. So, I am glad, Councillor Galley, that this has been raised here tonight, least of all because I think there's a few points which firstly need clarification. I have received hundreds of emails on this topic over the last fortnight. One person I didn't actually receive a phone call or email from, though, was you. Despite all the videos you've done, the first email I've had from you asking me what was going on was actually on Monday. The demolition of the sheds really cannot have come as a surprise. The original Tramtown plan was to move the workshop and make sure the funding bids were focused around a new visitor attraction around the heritage shed, so we could celebrate our wonderful heritage trams under one roof, rather than the current situation where visitors can only see them from across the yard. Nobody wants to demolish these sheds, but they need serious work and would need millions of pounds to repair. So that was the original plan, which has been in place for years. I don't know who manages the Tramtown social media, but they published a video with this exact plan on YouTube in February 2023. It was also the plan that has been discussed in a number of meetings with the Tramtown funding and steering group that already exist, as well as with Blackpool Transport. You have said to me that you were excluded from meetings. Obviously, I cannot comment upon that. But from what I do know is that you were invited to a meeting in November, which you didn't attend. The volunteers clearly care passionately about their work, and it is disappointing that they especially have not been fully appraised of the long history of the discussions and decisions around the condition of the buildings and the Tramtown business plan and vision. A few key points I need to make to anybody in the public gallery or watching online. We are not getting rid of the heritage trams. Council officers and staff at Blackpool Transport worked very hard to get some of the illumination for the illuminations last year, and working on getting even more output for this year. Blackpool Transport tell me that they can still maintain the heritage trams. Some maintenance can and does take place at Stargate, although I appreciate that it's not on the scale that they would wish. The demolition of the sheds has, as I have said, been discussed over 10 years, including when you were, as Councillor Brooks has said, Chair of BTS. The current position flows from decisions taken over years and not from any new or political direction. All of that said, I think it is really important to understand why decisions were made. It is most important that we focus on a way forward and to deliver a sustainable future for Tramtown. Having spoken with some of the volunteers last week, I could not help but be moved by their passion and commitment, and I want to assure them that I and the council are committed to finding solutions. I can't give guarantees other than we will work together with the immediate focus on how we can get the fitting shed repaired and able to be used as soon as possible. Am I able to ask for an extension of time, or do I? Excuse me. Specifically on your questions, we have not made a final decision on the workshop. I am told maintaining the building could cost as much as 3 million, and demolishing it would be expensive too, estimated at about 1 million. So we need to look at the best use of public funds. But I am very conscious of the importance of the use of the fitting shed for Tramtown and its volunteers. And as I have said, I'm committed to trying to resolve immediate issues as well as long term. On a steering group, this already exists with a term of reference, and you are a member of it, I understand, along with council officers and a heritage consultant. Thank you.
Councillor Welling.
So while we are looking at where Tramtown is best to sit in order to give it the best chance of being commercially successful, a new funding bid will be submitted shortly. The council has been very involved and supportive of the bid, and I really hope it is successful. As you are aware, there has been ongoing dialogue with Heritage Lottery. Just one final issue. You'd stated in your email to me that this was not a political issue, but by making these videos and acting in your role as councillor, you made it not only political, but by plastering my email everywhere, also very personal. The majority of the emails and contacts I have received have been from genuinely concerned people who believe that we were getting rid of the heritage trams, but a few have been unpleasant and some threatening against me and my home. And for the first time ever as a councillor, I have had to report those to the police. Your first video, of course, came only days after you and I had attended the Operation Ford training about safety and issues in public office. I raise this as not only this is not a good way of how we should resolve important issues for our town, Councillor Galley, but I don't want anybody here, on whatever side of the chamber, to be put in that position again. I remain entirely focused on a constructive way forward, one that prioritises solutions, shared responsibility, and prioritises the town's interest over personal positioning. Thank you.
Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To say I'm disappointed is an understatement. Let's make this an attack on poor Galley again. Poor Galley knew about the plans. I did, Councillor Brooks. Let's go back in time. This was a time when we had the electric bus scheme. Remember that? Which has fallen by the wayside. We worked around what we had at the time. The electric buses were going to take up that space, and it was going to be required for charging points. Over time, that has now changed. Those charging points are no longer needed. The electric bus scheme is on hold. So obviously, it has now been adopted by everybody that it's going to stay as a workshop, a fitting shop that is required at the moment currently for the home of Tramtown. That allows us to generate money to support the business case. Alongside that, we then look at some of the other comments that have been made against me tonight around how does this work? We keep hearing this comment, we're not getting rid of the trams. We're right, we're not getting rid of the trams. Councillor Ellison is right. They will be stored in a tram shed that is currently rotting. It's got holes in the roof and it's raining, water's coming in, nobody can get in it. That's keeping them safe. And when I say about trams, these are, who remembers a Western train that used to go up and down? That's been seized up in there for over 18 months. The Fleetwood illuminated tram, there's only one illuminated tram left. That can only be maintained for so long at Stargate. Without the workshop, you will not be able to build the parts. These parts are uniquely made in Blackpool. It's got a forge. That's why the workshop matters. The volunteers have heard these promises for so long, Madam Mayor. That's why we've gone public, because things have been done behind our back. But what do I get when I raise it? Oh, Operation Ford, Councillor Galley is targeting the leader of the council. You are the leader of the council, Madam Mayor. This is the leader of the council. You are the person who's meant to lead. I invited you down in a non-political way 4 years to open it. In that time, we've had no support from you. I've sent you emails in the past that you've never responded to. I was rightly concerned because we were told it would be happening in spring. This is why I've raised it in public, but instead, what do we get? nothing but attacks on poor Gally, the person who's given nothing but his energy, his own money, to do something that you should have done through the council, and instead you've made it political against me. I've asked if you was join a steering group. That steering group doesn't exist. You're telling me that one does exist. You're being misinformed, council leader. That's why I said we should all meet in public, give ourselves the opportunity to have the same conversation that we all get to hear. Because at the moment, things are being said behind our backs. Different things are being said to the chiefs, different things are being said to me, different things are being said to the managing director of Blackpool Transport. Until we get this into the public domain, which is what I did, and it wasn't to, and I'm sorry if people have sent you horrible messages, that was never the point of that. What we were trying to do is raise this publicly, because it cannot continue, because if it continues, we lose the workshops, we'll never be able to make a part for those trams again. And you may say we're not getting rid of them, instead we'll just see them rusting away.
Time's up now. Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Look, as I said before, we can go over where we've got to, the important issue now, and I've given assurances, but to look at both the short-term and the long-term options. But what I still don't understand, Councillor Galley, is why you didn't come to me sooner, why you didn't contact me. Why it wasn't, necessary to try and resolve this, because that isn't how we should deal with things, especially something that is so important. And that's the easiest way, is actually talking directly to avoid all this misinformation. So, I have given those assurances. I understand that I think in a statement that in a response that I put out, I talked about the tram shed being dry, and I accept that it's not. That was part of a line that was in relation to the future, that was the hope for it. I understand all the concerns and the issues, and but I just wish that this had all been dealt with in an entirely different way, because in a far more constructive way. And I'm not just saying that because of the impact that it has had on me, but in terms of resolving these issues. And I think the message that it gives out to the town, that it seems to be that we're incapable of speaking to one another or resolving things without putting stuff all over YouTube. That isn't how we should be running this town. Thank you.
I'm going to draw a line under that now and just ask you, are there any general questions on Councillor Williams? Councillor O'Neill and then Councillor Gall.
Sorry, I just want thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make the point, thank you very much, Councillor Williams, for your swift response to my email on the Tramtown issue, and we're committed to work with you cross-party in order to retain this heritage, which is so important to Blackpool. Thank you. Councillor
O'Neill. Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. General questions, isn't it? General questions, yeah. Thank you. Given around 430 homes in the Revo area are proposed for demolition, Madam Mayor, with no funding to deliver replacement homes, can the leader state where residents are expected to go? And would the leaders support the Labour-led Chalkhall model in London? That model places residents at the centre of dialogue and a right to return. This is absolutely essential in a place where we're just offering people meagre crumbs to try and find another home and no promises of where they'll go at a time when there's no money to build any houses on what we then demolish. And the main question I have for the council leader, there is a public meeting tomorrow night. The council leader has told us she wants us to work together. She wants to this new great dialogue that we've just heard all about. Will the council leader attend that meeting tomorrow at 7:30 in the Revo area and meet the public and listen to their stories about how this is going to affect them?
Quiet, please. Councillor Williams.
Right, thank you. Firstly, in relation to the meeting tomorrow evening, unfortunately it came in too late, and I'm actually having my police home security check, so I cannot attend, but officers are attending, and they were to give a message to the meeting that I will be at the next one. In terms of the right to return, because the council doesn't own these properties in that area, we cannot give that right to return. There has been every address, every property has been visited, a number of meetings and all of that support. That doesn't go to say that we absolutely understand the upset and concern that this raises for residents. So we are absolutely doing everything we can to speak with every resident and to provide that support. And that remains ongoing. It's an open option in terms of contact details. There will be, I think, weekly meetings to resolve those issues and that support going forward. I think, I can provide you with details, Councillor Galley, of all the work that has been done, all the meetings that have been had, that have been going on for some time now. Just provide that support.
Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up, you now have 2 deputies, Council Leader. Will they be going to this meeting tomorrow night at 7:30? I've attended one. Our local MP, Chris Webb, has attended. It is really important that we don't just send officers, we actually send our elected members. This is a question of who runs this town. You have 2 deputies. Will you go tomorrow night on your behalf? Bearing in mind, we just had a very, very damaging report back on this council in terms of our own coroner and the findings on the tragic death of Alistair Taylor. You need to be at this meeting. You didn't go to the last one. You need to be at this one. You need to look people in the eye and tell them that this is a good thing. And then if you don't, you'll be able to at least hear why it's not a good thing. Because I went down and I had my eyes opened to what's really going on. I think it's your opportunity to do the same. So deputy leaders, there's 2 of you. You're very well remunerated for this. Let's see you there tomorrow. Will you encourage your 2 deputies to go instead of you, Leader?
Councillor Brooks.
Strangely enough, I'm not normally allowed to comment on things like this, being the chairman of the housing company. But having said that, I won't be there tomorrow either because I've got previous engagement. But I also am not afraid to talk to the people in Revo because I'll tell them the truth. And I'll also offer reassurance to those people. This project's going to take between 3 and 5 years, that there are numerous people that are already engaging with the council. We are going over and above what we're supposed to do for the CPO arrangements to avoid the need for a compulsory purchase order to clear that area. And I will combat the lies and innuendo that are being spread by the people in that area with vested interests, the private landlords that is seeking to maintain their yield from rents, exorbitant rents in 2 up and 2 downs in that area, simply to protect their income streams. The people that are in there, we will look after them. We've given a pledge that nobody will be made homeless. This project will be take between 3 and 5 years in the first phase to complete. It's the first phase. We are looking to regenerate Blackpool. We're not going to apologise or shrink away from that. I'll talk to people face to face about that. I'll talk to them about the neighbourhood that we want to create. And what you should have done, rather than going stirring and making wild accusations at open meetings where misinformation is being spread, is said to people, you'll get the full chance again to consult once the planning application goes in March, which will highlight the neighbourhood, what's going to go back in there, what the aspiration is, from a concrete jungle, effectively, of row after row of 2 up and 2 down, many badly maintained, the private sector ones that aren't maintained properly despite the rental fees that are being charged to people. It's a scandal what's happening with those private landlords. We're taking them on, we are going to regenerate that area, and hopefully people will engage and continue to engage with the council through the planning consultation and all the support that's being provided in the area, and not argue over misinformation.
So what plan are you living on?
Councillor Sloman.
Thank you. It's just a quick clarification. I hear everything that you're saying, Councillor Brooks. The area that you refer to is the properties are at the lower end of the housing market in terms of price. Highly unlikely that those residents are suddenly wholesale going to find accommodation somewhere in Blackpool with the prices that they're going to get for those houses. A lot of them, yes, they might well be in the hands of private landlords, but if we've suddenly got all these families that are going to have to move, are we not just going to shift the problem in terms of those private landlords, because those people are going to be housed elsewhere, and therefore that the rents that are being charged by private landlords across the town are suddenly going to shoot up because it's going to be a seller's market? Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you. So I give the residents assurance that at the next meeting I will be there and I will talk to them and we'll talk through. But as I say, unfortunately, I cannot be there tomorrow. You see, I don't view this as shifting a problem. It isn't the residents of this area that are the problem, it's the properties. And that's what we need to resolve. I've heard often talk about that we can invest in the properties, but that's investing in private landlords. That is not the way to resolve this, and this doesn't then create these stronger communities. Those areas do not have the facilities, how we would want our children to grow up, how we want our families to enable those communities to thrive, to have green spaces, to have play areas for the kids. That's what we want to create, and we've seen in areas that we have done that across the town that does create that healthier, more resilient community, and that's what we want for the area. All that support will go in. There are other properties that are available. We have BHC on board in terms of their properties, and we are supporting everybody in the way that we can, both financially but also in terms of locating other properties nearby if needs be, and further afield if that's what they want.
Councillor Galley, do you know?
I thought the question might come under myself a bit later, to be honest, but it's been drawn a bit sooner than I anticipated. Thank you, Madam Mayor, if I could just comment on this, and probably the people in the chamber and the people who are on the balcony at the top there, I know it's very emotive for some people. Some of this is their people's homes, and it's challenging when you sometimes have to regenerate an area which is going to affect people's lives, and people may live there for a very long time. But as we know, over a number of years, they define that area as being needs the most investment, and it's always been recorded over a number of years that it is one of the worst, not worst places, but most needs investment in the town. So we have, over the last few years, I've worked with Homes England and the government and secured £90 million to regenerate that part of Bloomfield. The area is probably about 1/10 of the whole area, of that area. I know it's challenging, people have to relocate, and to be able to say some of these properties are in poor condition. There'll be some people there who have lived there a long time and invested in a house, and they're probably a lovely home they're having at the moment. And that's going to be heartbreaking to move from that premises to a new premises. Hopefully, once we regenerate that area, I think we've got them as well. I don't know what you said. I got down here up to 300 properties, and we're building back about 230 properties. I've got the figures here today. It's straight from the officer's information, okay? I asked for, to date, information, because I thought it would be asked as a question. How many times we engaged around the area? We've knocked on all the doors 3 times. We put letters through the doors. We've engaged with, I know some people might say we've never spoken to the council officers, but we every time someone contacts us, we follow up, and the officers will contact them immediately as soon as they possibly can to speak to them about the issues and concerns. Has been recorded 2,000 communications to the council regarding communications with them. So far, 180 properties have come to the council asking for an evaluation of their property. That's 60% of the people are actually engaging with the council, and some of those are in the process, legal process. Some have actually moved out. And there's some good stories. And I know it's difficult, but there is some good stories where some people have rented a house for a large number of years, have struggled to get on the housing market with the home relocation grant. They've used that sum of money to put down as a deposit on their first home. So not for everybody, but there is good stories amongst that as well. But I know it's challenging for the people who live there and the community they're in, but what we want to do is improve the community for everybody in Revo, and also support the growth and improve the properties for people the whole of Blackpool. Well, that's why we're building new homes on Grange Park. So we're building new homes across the town to give good people opportunity for good homes. I know it's challenging, But we are doing our thing, and we are
Councillor Scott,
communicating with,
sorry.
with residents around there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What I'm not clear about is the sufficiency aspect of this. So it's reported in the press the difference is 400 to 200 and something demolitions to new properties. You've given us different figures tonight, Councillor Smith, but nevertheless, there does seem to be a significant shortfall between what we're losing and what we're gaining. How is that shortfall going to be met? And on the back of that, and given that you've spoken tonight, will you be able to attend the meeting tomorrow? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is it on the... Councillor Sloman, is it on the same subject? Yeah, do you want to take two at once, Councillor Smith?
That's not,
Oh, sorry. It was just, it was aimed at Councillor Smith, so... No, I appreciate that, but she did aim it at... Yeah, Councillor Williams, you want to answer the question?
Yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of technical response, Councillor Smith, I'm sure can, in his detail. But I think the important thing here is about the figures changing, Councillor Scott, is because we've got to get into this consultation. We need to talk to people to understand what and how, and that work is still ongoing. Because we want that response. We want to understand who's living there and how they want to live. And in terms of the number of properties, there's a lot of smaller properties. We'll be creating bigger family properties, which will have an increased number. So it may actually not even be a reduction in the number of people who are living there, but will be in terms of the properties. So we need to understand what the people want, what their view of how they want this to be created. And that's the important aspect of this, that's why there isn't set figures. We need to have that understanding and get that consultation done with the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be very brief, and this probably cuts across other people's portfolios. There's been very one-dimensional debate about this tonight. It's all about the housing. Houses are physical structures that accommodate people, families. Families have children. There are children that are going to have to move out of their area, away from their homes, away from their friends. Sat on an appeal panel this week, and we heard a very difficult story about a gentleman who had basically had to go through God knows how many hoops to get to an appeal stage, to get support, to get his children to school. So where children are having to move out of area, there is a caveat that they're supposed to attend the nearest couple of schools to them to be able to qualify for funding to support their transport to education. So can we have an undertaking from whoever's responsibility it is that these families where children have got to move and have got to avoid their education being disrupted, that we will give an assurance to those families that they will be supported financially where necessary to maintain their children's education if they have to move out of area. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
So I think we did the first part of work that started and that has been going on for months is around understanding the area. So connection to school, connection to GP, connection to other kind of community facilities. So, and once that's been done, the further work that is when we move, because remember this is an area, and just outside, you know, talking about school, talking about Revo, there are lots of properties that are still very near to Revo School. So we're working with the families, and once we've got that understanding of the makeup, because absolutely, we don't want any child's schooling to be disrupted. We don't want people's lives to be, you know, in terms of it's hard enough getting a GP, all of that kind of thing. So that assessment has been done, and that's a continuous part of the work. So to ensure, so rather we don't want to be paying for kids to be transported. We want to ensure that we find the right accommodation, which will be done, so that we don't have that disruption for the families.
I did say I was going to bring this to close. I did see Councillor Fenlon's hand up. Would you still like to speak, Councillor Fenlon?
I think a lot of people feel as if this has been done to them and not for them. So could I have an assurance from the council leaders that we will have some sort of people's dialogue going forward and not just sort of back and forth.
Thank you, Councillor Fenley. Councillor William?
Councillor Fennan, I'm a bit surprised you've asked that. As you know, we've often discussed this, that the next stage is around that consultation and to have that discussion. And, you know, to say, I would have been at that meeting tomorrow, but I've got this other appointment, and we will have those meetings, and the council are also organising those meetings, and will do so going forward. So absolutely. But, I mean, you know, we've discussed that, you know, the number of meetings, and we can send out a note which will confirm all of the meetings, when the work started, what has been available. And I know it's difficult because people work, maybe they're not in, all of that. But that has all been made available. And absolutely to have a dialogue going forward.
Williams. We're going to move on now to the Deputy Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Councillor Neil Brooks, to present his report. And the themes are retirement of Karen Smith, Director of Adult Social Care, and Adults Improvements Plan. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Lady Mayor. I'll be brief on this. First of all, on theme 1, the main part of theme 1 is got to be the retirement of Karen Smith, who spent 25 years serving the people of Blackpool, been the Director of Adult Social Services for the last 11 years, the last 3 years of which she was doing a joint role between Adult Social Care and the ICB, getting Blackpool's opinions and views met within the health service and the ICBs. She'd done many jobs over a quarter of a century, but probably the most stark and recent example of a commitment to Blackpool and its residents was during COVID. While many people were locked down and were at home being fearful and wondering what might transpire during the pandemic, Karen was out front and centre helping to coordinate and lead Blackpool's response along with other council staff, ensuring people were safe, ensuring people were fed, ensuring supplies were available for medical staff, working with public health colleagues to enable vaccination supplies, volunteers, etc. Blackpool's COVID response was so good, in fact, that it became replicated across Lancashire, and Karen and our public health teams deserve enormous credit for that. And that was the best of Karen and a commitment to Blackpool residents. And I want to place on record my thanks for that. I also want to thank Karen for the counsel and advice over the last 2 years where I've worked closely with her in the adult services forums. The commitment to Blackpool and adults...
Councillor Brooks, do you just want to just stop for a second?
Stopping the clock.
And no, it's not that you've run out of time. It's just I'm aware of people leaving behind you. It's just a bit much noise and I want you to be able to be heard. So if we can just give a couple of minutes for those who would like to leave, and then we'll carry on.
I think he's worried about his green light going on. Technical know-how.
Do you want to start again?
I think people are still going.
If you are staying, would you please remind yourselves where you are and just keep it a little bit quiet. Thank you. Yep, Councillor Brooks.
I'm sorry that you didn't hear that tribute I've just made to Karen, or I hope you did, because a commitment to Blackpool and the adult services staff were a credit to her, and I want to wish her well for a long and happy retirement. And I'm sure other people may want to echo that sentiment, given that you won't come to a meeting in future. In terms of the report, theme 2, I can confirm that the Adults Improvement Plan will be submitted by close of business this week to the National Improvement Advisor, who will then submit it to the Minister and the Secretary of State Secretary of State for a decision on the next steps to be taken. Both the Improvement Advisor and the Independent Chair of the Improvement Board have already expressed their confidence in the plan, but as I've said before, this is about establishing a baseline of where we are and setting a plan for improvement in the future. As I said at the Improvement Board, you know, we've talked the talk, now it's time to walk the walk, and we'll be judged dependent on ministerial confidence to allow us to continue with our improvement plan. and hopefully deliver for the people of Blackpool. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Any questions on theme room? On retirement of Karen Smith? I'll do Councillor Cooper, Sloman and Councillor Scott.
I would just like to echo Councillor Brooks's sentiments about Karen. Having worked for Karen, I knew her to be heart and souls in adult social care. And when you are when you're the director of the whole service, you hold yourself personally responsible for everything. But she also, I felt, didn't always acknowledge when everything was going right, and the massive contribution she made. So I just wanted to echo Councillor Brooks's sentiments that having worked for Karen and been on the scrutiny for adult social care, I hope very much that she has a successful and long retirement and can breathe a sigh of relief now that adult social care will hopefully be in the distant past for her. However, she was an excellent manager, certainly from where I sat as a member of staff. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper, Councillor Sloman.
Thank you. Echo all the positive things that have been said about Karen. I haven't had a great deal to do with her. However, I am on the Adult Improvement Board and I've found her to be very welcoming, very open to the process of my involvement and clearly very knowledgeable. Councillor Brooks, in your report, we're saying that imminently we will hopefully be able to be in a position to make a permanent appointment, but prior to that, an interim appointment for Karen's post. But if you go over to agenda item 8, I think it's 6.1, it said by the end of January, with 2 days off. Are we in a position yet to say that we have got somebody identified, at least as an interim? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Do you want to take that one question, or Councillor Scott, is yours related to Councillor Sloman? Do you want to take two together? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It isn't really a question. I just wanted to give my personal view on Karen's retirement, and I was very sad and sorry to learn that she was retiring. It says in the report, and we know that she's been a director on the ICB for the last 3 years, and she took on that role. I was concerned it seemed a lot at the time, particularly with her other role in adult social care, and quite frankly, I think that the ICB took advantage of Karen's nature. They hid behind her a lot, particularly on the scrutiny committees, and she was always their front person, which we queried quite often because it didn't seem right that they were putting that whole burden on her. From a councillor point of view, Karen was always there. She was very proactive if there were any queries about her service. It felt to me that she knew the service well and was protective of the staff in the service as well, and of those service users that we know rely on it. So, along with colleagues, I would like to wish Karen the very best. I feel she was let down by the ICB, sadly. We've been let down by the ICB quite a lot, and that was just one area in which that was the case. But I wish Karen all the best for the future and a happy and healthy retirement. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Benson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've known Karen for many years, for my first starting my career with the Learning Disability team, and Karen worked at Progress House with myself. She certainly packed a lot into her career at Blackpool, and she always... I think if you saw Karen at work, I don't work for adult social care, but I saw her every day walking through the offices, and there wasn't many directors that walked through the offices that knew every member of staff, and she always had chance to speak to them. How are you? Any problems? You know, and the staff really, really appreciated that. So I hope she enjoys her freedom, and we'll see her on the terraces at Bloomfield Road. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Benson. Councillor Williams.
Yes, I just wanted to add also my thanks, gratitude, particularly relevant for me was obviously I became leader in 2020, just into COVID, and Karen how she led through that was she was immense through COVID, and what that meant to the town. It's a real debt of gratitude to her, and our best wishes for her retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Sloman had a question at the end of hers. Councillor Brooks, would you like to reply?
Yeah, thank you, Lady Mayor. Just also to echo Councillor Scott's observations about the ICB taking advantage of Karen and indeed the Scrutiny Board and indeed the Council and local authorities across the country. I think they're getting their comeuppance now, bluntly, in that they're being reformed and being driven in an appropriate direction. Hopefully that will bring improvements across the sector. So Karen, yes, 50% of the time she was taken advantage of by the ICB. I've sat at meetings alongside Karen with reports presenting our name, and neither of us had seen it. It was an ICB report, was the level of cooperation. But that's in the past now, so I echo your comments. Councillor Sloman, the end of January target date was the submission of the ministerial plan. That's going to be met, going down for approval of the Minister. In terms of the recruitment of the interim DAS, I can report that 2 internal candidates for the interim DAS have already passed a technical interview, if you like, and the full interview takes place next week, hopefully to appoint by the end of next week an interim DAS to take us in the next few months and either prove themselves or whatever. But later on in the summer, once we'll be going out for recruitment for a permanent DAS, but that exercise realistically is going to take several months. So it's going to be this summer before we look to get a permanent DAS in place. So yes, we're interviewing next week for the interim, appointing next week hopefully, and then we'll go out for the permanent hopefully in summer.
Thank you, Councillor. Brooks, is there any general questions? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Any questions on theme 2, Adults Improvement Plan? No? Excellent. Any general questions? No? Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor Brooks. Deputy Leader of the Council Place and Cabinet Member for Climate Change, Councillor Jane Hugo, to present her report, Blackpool Coast Protection and Flood Risk Management. Thank you, Councillor Hugo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before I present my report, I'd like to share some good news. The gardens in front of the DWP building won an award last week at the Civic Trust Award ceremony for Best Open Space. It was recognised that the gardens are an outstanding example of how thoughtful landscape design can transform a working environment into a vibrant and inclusive space. I'm happy to report that the same designers are overseeing the space between Bickerstaff and the new Multiversity, giving us the opportunity to extend this area to support community pride. So, a bit of good news before presenting my report. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. Any questions on theme 1, which is Blackpool Coast Protection? Councillor Sloman.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Hugo. I'm looking at the bit about the Bispham Coast Protection. It says that work is likely to start on site late 2026. However, it will be necessary to secure the rock materials prior to commencement. Contractors and council officers have been investigating options for compound areas. We know how difficult, from experience, we know how difficult it is. Are you in a position either to confirm that they are not going to potentially be looking to extend the compound, the contentious compound that's going in front of Wilvere Court, or confirm that that is one of the options that's being considered? Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Hugo. Any more questions on theme 1? No? Do you want to? Councillor McKevitt.
It's more of a comment. I'm personally looking forward to seeing these coastal defences for Bispham. They've been a long time coming. This scheme is going to protect a total of 12,000 homes from Bispam to Ankersholm. It'll preserve our beaches, so it will protect our unique tourist economy here in Blackpool, of course. And obviously it will protect our tram lines, which I'm sure will host our trams on for years and years to come, new and old. So I have full confidence in our Cabinet member to deliver this, and I hope it gets delivered. So yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McKevitt. Any other questions on theme 1? No? Any questions on flood risk management? Sorry. Right.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, councillors. Councillor Sloman, yes, I'm well aware of the disruption that the compound will cause for the residents in that nearby area, and unfortunately, we've looked at all different ways of doing that, and that's the result. That's where we've decided upon the compound going. We'll do our best to work with the residents. As you know, we've been through this a number of times to make the disruption as least as possible. With regard to extending the duration of how long that compound's going to be there, I'm not going to make any promises that tonight that might backfire. We will do our utmost to try and avoid extending the duration that compound's there, and as the works progress along the promenade, look for different locations. But we haven't explored all those options yet. We haven't come up with any decisions for where the compound will be relocated to and when. So unfortunately, I can't give any strong reassurances, but we will do our utmost to take the needs of and the concerns of those residents into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. Can I just ask in the gallery, please, if you can just keep it quiet while others are speaking, just so that everybody else can hear the questions and the answers. Thank you. Councillor Sloman.
Sorry, it's not a question. On the basis of your report and things that have been out there in the press, Councillor Hugo, and I'm asking specifically because one resident's raised this, is consideration not being given to actually storing these rocks on the beach, because ultimately that's where they're going to be, and then they can be moved along to where they need to be moved along. And that was obviously not considered, obviously, in terms of the Wilvere Court compound. But is that something that we could look at potentially, do you think? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. That does seem to be a very logical solution, but unfortunately it's not a viable solution. It's just not possible to get that amount of rocks on the beach in a secure way while the works continue. It's technically and mechanically it's not viable, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Hugo. Any other questions on theme 1? Moving on to theme 2. Sorry, I've lost my place. Flood risk management. No? Any general questions? I'll take Councillor Brooks, then Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a little bit of good news, really. Obviously, I'd like to thank Councillor Hugo for the work that she's done, and all of the friends, and all the volunteers, and all the residents, and all the people in Martin. Everybody that got involved regarding the Martin Mere applications. I know that's Councillor Galley on that side, it's Councillor O'Neill there. It was real cross-party work to get that sorted. And the applicant as well for listening to public really reasoning and withdrawing that application. I mean, we work best in this chamber, outside of this chamber. When we go into the committees and we work together, cross-party collaboration in a collegiate atmosphere. And I really think that's where this council is the best. I was at a meeting just yesterday with Martin Mere, where the zoo are getting involved in helping them with some of the signage and some of the improvements that have been done there. That's where we're good in here. And so if we can continue in that spirit, that'd be great. It's just a great bit of celebration. And I didn't ask it in flood management, but obviously that's a great example of where it all drains through to there, and then it goes out the way to Skipple Creek, and it's lovely and takes all the water away, and there's great bird life as well. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, and a specific thank you to Councillor Hugo. All right.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Scott, then Galley, Scott, and then Sloman. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I echo everything Councillor Brooks has said. It was a really good meeting, and everybody has contributed. And you're right, we do work best when we work collegiately. In that spirit, Councillor Hugo, we heard earlier from the leader around why all the communication is so good down in Revo and how great the council are going to be in the way we communicate. I did ask if, as a deputy leaders, you will be attending. Councillor Brooks confirmed he wouldn't. He was busy. In the spirit of what we've heard tonight, in the spirit of what the residents are very keen to have a conversation with their elected leadership, will you be able to go to the meeting tomorrow at 7:30 at Ibsen Court and hear from the residents in the same spirit that we've heard of working together?
Oh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are all aware in this chamber of the changes that are coming up with waste collection and the requirement for recycling. And it's become very obvious, particularly I think on social media and anecdotally from confused residents, that a lot of people don't know what's going on. So they've had a brown bin delivered, they've had a blue bin maybe exchanged, maybe they haven't had one exchanged, maybe they've just been given an extra blue bin, but they're not entirely sure what's happening. They're not sure what should go in which bin, when their bin's going to be collected, and the situation we have currently is going to be changing again in April, as we know, with food waste bins, food caddies for the kitchen, etc. But the education around it doesn't seem to be robust enough from what I'm hearing back from residents. They really don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And we're all different, and some people are quite happy to be told the week before, right, from next week you've got to do this, this and this. But a lot of people need to know a long time before that. They need to be able to plan and get used to how the changes are going to impact on them and their lives and the way that they run their lives. So my question is, how are people going to be educated properly so that we're not getting contaminated recycled waste? In terms of the paper and card, for example, I walked down a road near to me and there was all sorts in the brown bin that I knew shouldn't be there, but clearly that resident thought it was okay. You know, mixed plastic and paper and so on. A lot of people aren't on social media. I know there's been stuff on social media. I've seen it, I've shared it myself. But we have a huge proportion of this town that doesn't use social media, that almost needs hand-holding. How are we going to make sure that this is as successful as we want it to be? Whether or not we wanted it, we've got it, and it needs to work. So what's being done to educate the whole town so people know what to do? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Gally, right to reply, Councillor.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you, Councillor Brooks, for expressing the positive news there around Martin Mere, and echo absolutely everything Councillor Brooks says. It was a real team effort, and thanks to everybody who helped us get the results that we got there. Councillor Gally, the meeting tomorrow night, unfortunately, this is the first I'm hearing about that, because it doesn't directly, I've not been directly involved in that. It would be easy for me to say, yes, I'll come along tomorrow night, but I don't want to do anything tokenistic. I don't want to just react to a request put on the spot tonight when my colleagues have got much more detailed knowledge of what's going on and are much more involved and are closer to the issue than I am personally. I'm sorry that that's disappointing to you, Councillor Gally, but I'm afraid that's where we are. I will talk closely with my colleagues though and find out more about how we'll take this forward from tonight, and make sure that people do understand how much we really do care about the experiences that they are going through. But please be reassured that myself and my colleagues really want the best for the town, and we recognise that that's going to be upsetting for some of the residents there, and we want to do our best to do it with as least disruption and upset possible. Councillor Scott, waste and recycling, yes, I do appreciate it's a lot. There's a lot of change and a lot happening all at once. I appreciate there'll be some confusion and that people will be uncertain of what's going on. As always, with change, it can be really tricky. We've written, I think last week or early this week, to every councillor. There's a new pack of like frequently asked questions that's gone out. So as ward councillors, you can all do your bit to help make sure your residents have got the information that they need when they bring inquiries to you. If you're not sure, please give me a shout on anything particular that's perhaps not answered in that pack. A letter's already gone out to every household. We'll be doing that again. The libraries are all clued up, so residents can go and ask questions in the local libraries, and there's information on the website. Totally get your point that not everybody's on social media or has access to websites, which is why we're trying to make sure that community venues are up to speed and are able to advise residents. But again, just to really echo that as ward councillors, we've all got a really key part to play in this, and I'd appreciate your support with that. So thank you very much.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, thank you very much, Councillor Hugo, for helping us all with the Martin Mayor thing. Thank you for hosting the meeting with the council leader, and thanks to the council leader for pulling everything together to making sure we can keep Martin Mayor the beautiful place it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a life events matter, Councillor Hugo. First of all, thank you to the Cabinet for actually putting forward now, and it's going to go into place, the new pet crematorium up at Carlton. Losing a pet can actually be a life event. I have some very dear friends who lost their dogs just before Christmas, and it has ripped them apart. And the idea that they will have somewhere, or other families will have somewhere local that they can go without their pet having to be shipped off out of town and brought back to have their remains disposed of, I think that's absolutely great. Now, that crematorium extension is one of the many developments and improvements that I've witnessed up at Carlton Crematorium over a lifetime, and I want to place on record the fact that Jocelyn Greenway leaves us, doesn't she, at the end of the month. She's been absolutely awesome, and I would like it placed on record that I thank her for my support as a councillor to partner this council with the Good Grief Trust. She's been amazing in supporting that, but also professionally I would like to thank her because I work, as you know, in the bereavement service at Blackpool Victoria Hospital, and she has been absolutely amazing. She's been so supportive, and we're all gutted that she's going. I know she's going on to pastures new. She's not lucky enough, unfortunately, to be retiring, but every good wish to her. Thank you.
And Councillor Hugo.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Sloman. Absolutely, yeah. We will be really sad to lose Jocelyn. She's been brilliant, and I'm really pleased that the pet crematoriums managed to get off the ground before she finished, because she was a driving force behind that. And I think since I've had this as part of my portfolio, I've been really impressed as well with Jocelyn's can-do attitude and how she's embraced the climate change portfolio and looked at ways of making the life events topics as environmentally friendly as we possibly can. So yes, our loss will be somebody else's gain, and yeah, thank you for your kind words about our officer.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, going to a close, and we'll move on to the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Hobson, to present his report and his themes for the evening: private fostering, inspection of local authority children's services preparation, and peer review of care leaver services. Thank you, Councillor Hobson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, happy to take questions at the end of each theme. Just as a little update to theme 2, since this was published, we found out in the last 2 days that Ofsted are having their annual conversation with us in March. So we are guesstimating that the inspection will be in April. So it's quite a timely agenda item, this. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any questions on theme 1, private fostering? No? Theme 2, inspection of local, Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wondered, Councillor Hobson, it was a year since we had the motion on the children's sexual exploitation and grooming gangs. In that time, obviously, I know you've written to the government saying that this council supports an inquiry in Blackpool to be included in that inquiry. I just wondered if we'd had a response yet from the government to your letter. I assume it was a letter that was sent, and if so, what have they said? In the last full council, Madam Mayor, Councillor Hobson stated to me that we had obviously a Blackpool independent scrutineer, and he wasn't sure if I'd met him or not, and the answer is sadly no, I haven't. I would very much welcome such a meeting. The background on that member, that scrutineer, I should say, is he's a former police officer in South Yorkshire Police. And I wondered if, in light of a number of concerns that have been raised at a national level by victims, Madam Mayor, of child abuse around government appointments to the inquiry with a similar background, if he is concerned that residents would share the same concern around our scrutineer's background.
Councillor Hobson, oh, sorry, Councillor.
Can I just say, from an adult's point of view, I'm well aware of the independent scrutineer of the Children's Board, because he's also chairman of the Adults Safeguarding Board. Yes, he did go to South Yorkshire. He went to South Yorkshire as a response to the issues with child sexual exploitation. He was actually based in the northeast of England and was moved down there to clean up the operation in Yorkshire, if that offers any reassurance.
Councillor Hobson, anything?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do recall it was a year ago, Councillor Galley. With regards to the concerns you just raised, Councillor Galley, I think it's inappropriate to spring those on us in a council meeting. If you do have concerns, please put it in an email and I will have those thoroughly investigated. Thank you.
Councillor Hobson, Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The background is familiar to us all. There's nothing surprising. I've just asked the general question. There's nothing specific other than his background. Other people, you should be aware, have raised those concerns at a national level about similar backgrounds. There's nothing inappropriate about that question. I would have a follow-up question, though, for Councillor Hobson that I would like you to just clarify. He's currently reviewing Blackpool's safeguarding arrangements. Can you confirm what that framework looks like, and will you be able to share that with us in public?
Councillor Hobson.
Yeah, he's actually reviewing quite a few different aspects of the multi-agency safeguarding arrangements, Madam Mayor. And yes, anything that we can make public, we will make public. There are specific instances where, even where children aren't named, it is possible to identify those children because of the actual circumstances described. Obviously, there are some sensitivities with that, but no, there's nothing secret done in the matter, bud. Thank you.
Any more questions on theme 2? Theme 3, peer review of care. Any questions? No. Any general questions? Councillor Scott and Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hobson, the Foster With Us service, the hub, which we have been told is the best performing in the country, which is great for us, and we know that our numbers of foster carers have increased whilst that hub's been in operation, but the funding for that hub is time limited. So can we have your assurance that the council is doing everything it can to try to ensure that the funding for that continues, rather than it being upset at this stage and then potentially going into further upset through the local government reform? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Scott. Yeah, good question. I've obviously spoken to the DCS and Deputy DCS on this, and we are obviously very keen for funding to remain on this. And I know they are taking it further, higher up the local government association food chain, to try and press that we keep that up. So, I mean, you know, as soon as I know something, Councillor Scott, I will let you know. Thank you.
Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been approached by a number of people around Blackpool Madam Mayor, about yourself, Councillor Hobson. And they've noticed that you hold a number of director roles with Blackpool housing companies. And they wondered if how you can manage representing residents in a ward on one hand, and also those housing companies on the other, when one is leading potential regeneration aspirations, and how you manage the conflict. And do you have any divided loyalties on such a matter? And I just wondered if you could explain to the Chamber tonight and those residents who will be watching on webcasts how those roles are compatible and how you can assure residents that you're putting their interests before the director roles. And also, will you be attending the meeting tomorrow at 7:30 at Ipswich Court as well?
Councillor Hobson, right, to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Galley. I'm surprised you asked about the meeting tomorrow, Councillor Galley, as Scrutiny Overview Chair, because, as you well know, I'll be at Children's Scrutiny tomorrow. But to the wider question, I don't feel there's a conflict of interest. Can I just say to people up there, I mean, a lot of people up there know me. I've been dealing with some of you for years. I mean, you know, you know me. I don't feel conflicted on this whatsoever. And if I can just give you a story, I understand this. I was brought up in social housing. My mum and dad are disabled and they have not worked since the 1970s. We grew up poor and I grew up in an area not dissimilar to this. And I can hand on heart say we are doing everything for this area. My mum and dad lived on their nerves in the environment we lived in. We grew up in a council slum, basically, with antisocial behaviour. I remember when I was a kid seeing silver foil drugs. It was rotten. Until my mum and dad, when I was 12, got given a housing association house, completely different to where I'd grown up, with greenery. Me and my sister could play in the streets. It was beautiful. We thrived. I want that for Revo. I just want a decent neighbourhood for Revo. That's all I want. I do not feel conflicted at all, and I think that's a bloody awful question to ask a children's on a children's bit, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I'm glad you got the chance to reply, Councillor Hobson.
Okay, I just want to raise, as Councillor Hobson is the chair of the corporate parent panel, which myself and a few members sit on, we are delighted that some of our foster carers do come and sit on the corporate parent panel, and we were given a challenge last week because we know that we desperately need foster carers. So I did my challenge yesterday. As a member of the MVCO board, I asked them to put some social media on their intranet and speak to their staff. So can I ask everybody in this chamber, if you're on any boards, any committees, that you may see people that may be interested in fostering, can they do that? Thank you. I'm just asking, one of the speakers was for, is it Rachel, our head of our fostering team, was speaking to us about the lack of fostering. You've all seen the intranet posts about Blackpool Council and we need more foster carers. So we all took on a challenge that we were going to speak to any boards that we're on, any other committees, any friends, people that are coming up to retirement, colleagues. So I took my challenge yesterday and I spoke to the MVCO board, and they're going to put some intranet stuff on their staff intranet, staff newsletters. So if anybody in the chamber, you're on any of the committees or workshops or anything, can we mention about we need foster carers in Blackpool? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Ben. Any other questions on Councillor Hobson's? No. And moving on to Councillor Member for Community Safety and Street. Oh no, yeah, yes. No, I'm sorry, I've missed. Do you know, Councillor Farrell, yours is usually huge and today it's a little one, so I missed you. I'm so sorry. Councillor Farrell to present her report, Cabinet for Communities and Wellbeing, and the themes today are 2025 Blackpool Director of Public Health Annual Report, and the second one is Move Together Blackpool. Thank you, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to present my report and take any questions.
Any questions on theme 1 on Councillor Farrell's report? No. Move Together Blackpool, theme 2. Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Mayor. Some members might be aware that we are leading a bit of a drive in the north to hopefully... can you not hear me? Go down there. We are having a drive in the north towards the concept of a sports village across the 3 northern wards, and we're doing really, really well, and I think it's really important that everybody has access to leisure facilities within striking distance of where they are. And I just want to say a great big fat huge thank you to John Blackledge, who's probably going to be sat there cringing now, because we wouldn't have been able to make the progress that we have, and we have made significant progress without him, without his staff and the work of the officers. Thanks, John.
Sloman, any more questions on Move Together Blackpool? Any general questions on Councillor Farrell's portfolio? Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to refer, obviously, Councillor Farrell to an element of your portfolio, which is housing options and homelessness, decent homes, housing-related support and sustaining private sector tenancies. So I had 3 questions for you, if I may, Madam Mayor. I wondered, Councillor Farrell, what role you've had in supporting the residents of Revo who are about to lose their homes, and the valid concern that £80,000 will not buy them another home in Blackpool. And in light of what has happened in the tragic case of Alistair Taylor, do you agree that there should be a more inclusive consultation? The final question for you, Madam Mayor, for Councillor Farrell is, do you support the right of return for all residents and a clear plan of compensation, and will you attend the meeting tomorrow at 7:30?
Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your kind comments, Councillor Sloman. Councillor Galley, no, I haven't had any dealings with the housing regeneration down there at this moment in time. Do I believe that there should be a more inclusive consultation with residents? Yes, and it's happening. And 3, we can't have a right of return because there's private houses. They're not council houses, so we can't have that right of return. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's the second time Councillor Galley's mentioned that poor chap from the multiversity region. I've been the councillor for that area for 10 years. And as I say, I get it. My mum and dad are old, my dad's got dementia, they live in social housing. If they got the letter you got, they'd be worried. I get that. However, I have dealt with many, many people in Revo over 10 years who've suffered mental health for the conditions they're living in. We haven't heard any of their side. When I was first elected, I got called to see a lady who said she was at her wit's end. And I went to see that lady over and over again for 2 years, to the point she said, I can't take it anymore. Luckily, I got the housing company, conflict of interest, to look at her property and took it off her. I then bumped into her a year later. She came up to me, she thanked me, and she said, thank you, Councillor Hobson. I was actually at the point of topping myself before you did that for me. Now, we don't get many wins as councillors, but when I stop being a councillor and I look back at what I've done, I'll think of that lady and think I helped her. There are loads of people suffering with mental health issues in Revo, and I'm not saying all yous are, and some of yous are like, you know, you've got great houses, but some people are living in terrible conditions with mental and physical health. So, again, awful, Madam Mayor.
Hobson. Councillor Williams.
It was just in relation to the value of the property. I believe that you can, but any resident who is not happy about the valuation that is provided is absolutely free and will be paid by the council to get their own valuation done. So, you know, let's get rid of that notion for a start that this is being imposed on people. It is not. People are free to get their own valuation done, which will be respected. And you know, it's taken into account in terms of the value of all of the properties in the area. Thank you.
Any general questions? Councillor Sloman.
Absolutely get what you're saying, Leader, but I refer back to my comments earlier. It's all right saying your house is worth 80,000, your house is worth 120,000, but if those alternative homes aren't available for purchase anywhere in the town, that's a waste of time. Thank you.
Councillor Farrell, do you want to reply to?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Moving on. Cabinet Member for Community Safety, Street Scene and Neighbourhoods, Councillor Burdess, will present her report, 2 themes, Winter of Action and working towards Purple Flag accreditation. Thank you, Councillor Burdess.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to present my report as is, but throughout this, what we can see is extremely efficient and productive collaborative working between all the partnership agencies, and for all the teams involved, I'd like to really offer my maximum praise and thanks for all that they're doing in very hard economic and financial circumstances. They're coming up with incredible results, and a lot of the work that they're doing, particularly through the Winter of Action, the Summer of Action, it's held up as best practice nationally. So we are trailblazers. Blackpool are trailblazers in a number of areas, and I'd like to make that point in the chamber today, and as a mark of praise to the teams involved. So I present my report as is, and happy to take questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burdess. Any questions on theme 1, Winter of Action? No. Theme 2, working towards a Purple Flag accreditation? No. Any general questions? Councillor Thomas, I saw you first. Councillor Sloman. And did I see another one? Councillor Ellison and Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On a recent Department for Transport road maintenance ratings, Blackpool was awarded 2 out of 3 green scores for best practice and spending. Better scores than Lancashire, than Bolton, than Bury, than Liverpool. Blackpool's only amber score was in road condition. So what is this council doing to score a hat-trick of green scores to fill our potholes, including ones in Brunswick?
Yes, right to reply.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Well, I'll tell you what we're doing, because I'm very proud of what we're doing. And I'll just give it in summary rather than street by street, because as much as I'm interested in highways, I think it would bore the pants off almost everybody else in here. But just to say, between November and December, we delivered on 6 schemes. There are 8 schemes in the works to be completed by the middle of February. There are further 9 schemes in phase 2 that will be completed before the end of February, and just signed another. There are many more to come. Just in summary, I've signed several decisions in this week alone to repair and maintain Blackpool's roads, to keep Blackpool moving, and to make Blackpool cleaner, greener and more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burdess. Councillor Ellison. Sorry, Sloman. Councillor Sloman and then Councillor Ellison. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, Councillor Burdess. I've spoken many times about parking, and yet again this is a parking issue. Recently, it's been opened up now, so other areas besides London and Devon can actually enforce against people who are disrupting parking by parking on footpaths, parking on grass verges. So I'd like to know, are Blackpool going to take advantage of that widening, opening up? And more importantly, particularly in the Norbreck area, some months ago, double yellow lines were supposed to be placed down one side of Queen's Promenade. That's still not happened. There was an event on at the Norbreck Castle this weekend. I've seen some of the worst parking that I have ever seen, with cars wholly parked on grass verges. We've still got a procession of camper vans, of caravans and commercial vehicles that are basically running businesses from the side of the road. Now, when I've asked about parking bays and paid parking, I was told initially the infrastructure to put that in was costly, but we would generate money by putting those bays in. Can we at least, please, to keep our residents happy, put some signage up and prevent people from parking camper vans overnight, parking caravans overnight and parking commercial vehicles, because they are there for the duration of the week, then taking off, back home at weekends, and it's just not on. Thank you.
Councillor Sloman. I think she wants to answer. Yeah.
There are a number of questions there, so I hope I can remember everything that you detailed. Yes, in terms of the pavement parking, that's a very hot topic nationally, as you say. There are limitations in Blackpool. We have a very old infrastructure, and some of the roads, we just could not enforce that. They're far too narrow for that. But where we can, I'm sure we will. So going forward, that's something that we are mindful of, something that is under discussion, how we can enforce that in a way that is not detrimental to the flow of traffic and the economy in itself. Where you've remarked about the parking, the double yellow lines which weren't put there, usually when they're refused, it's because there are that it would cause some kind of obstruction, or there are other reasons, other technical reasons why they can't be put in place. So if it's been refused, it will be that. If it's not, or if it's not that reason, then I'm sure we can look into that and see why that's not taken place, but that would be in the public domain as well. So it's something that you can find out why that's been refused if that is the case. And the camper vans, I would go back to officers and get more information on that for you, because if the problem is as you say it is, then really, if complaints have been made and the situation is as bad as you say it is, then it's something that I'm sure we would be very interested to investigate. So we will look into that. Thank you very much for making the point. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I hope I've answered every question.
Councillor Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to talk about selective licensing scheme, and I know we actually had a committee meeting and did a review on that a few months ago. But since that meeting, I've been contacted by quite a few landlords across the town. Now, I know a lot of the landlords are often, viewed as having plenty of money and terrible landlords, but that's not the case, and there are plenty of landlords in Blackpool that are doing a really good job and actually really looking after the tenants. And there's been a lot of concern over this licensing scheme, particularly with regard to the payment of it. It's got to be done within 12 months. You can set up a payment plan for 12 months, even though it's, put over, the license is over a 5-year period. As we've been talking tonight about, the regeneration, there's people with properties in that area, that have got tenants in there that are really concerned about when they're going to have to move out. And those properties still have to be licensed, even though, they might not be standing in, 2, 3, 4 years' time. But it is causing the landlords a lot of problems, and a lot of them are reporting that they're going to be just selling up the properties because there really isn't, any way they can afford these massive fees. And they're also putting those fees straight on the rents, which is something that was told wasn't going to happen. But if they can't find the money to pay for them, then that's ultimately what's going to happen. So is there any way we can look at payment plans for some of these landlords to extend it over a longer period than the 12 months, because quite often a lot of them don't have that kind of money lying around, and it is causing a lot of stress and a lot of tension. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Burdett.
Thank you. With selective licensing, sorry, I switched on. Sorry about that. Yes, I hear what you're saying. The reason it gets expensive is because of the size of the portfolio. Individually, the charge per property is, sorry, I've just turned over the page, so I've lost my place, is £772, which is paid over 2 payments. The first the first being larger, the second is less than half of the payment, and on the second payment, the second instalment, that's where the discounts are allowed, or applied, sorry. So where there has been a late application, and this accounts for a lot of landlords who have been applying in the later part of last year and the early part of this year, then they won't get those discounts. I'm assuming that where you're saying, you know, they are worried because they can't pay, then they have a sizable portfolio. In those cases, where there is genuine hardship, we will work with individual landlords to work out a payment scheme. So we are not going to see our landlords go to the wall at all. We are more than happy to work with them and work out terms, but from what I'm hearing from you, I'm just feeling that they do have sizable portfolios, and this is where the kind of issues are arising, because individually the actual cost works back. It's actually a very small cost per month, which really doesn't need to be passed on to the renter. So I do want you to understand that. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. No.
Sorry. Yeah, you can have a follow-up question.
You're right in saying it's not just one property, but there have been people who contacted me with just one property or two properties, and finding £700, you know, £1,400 in a short space of time is quite difficult. But one of the things, you know, it's not just about individual houses, it's about, you know, if there's, flats, say 7 or 8, 9 flats, it's not just the 770 odd pounds, it's also £95 a unit. So it does really, really build up over time. And you're right, but just because someone has, you know, a few blocks of flats, it doesn't mean that they've got that, you know, several £1,000s just lying around to put out. And it is taking people to the brink. And I know a lot of people don't understand that and think that they've got plenty of money, they must have if they have all these properties, but they've still got mortgages. And a lot of the legislation that's come in place has meant that, you know, they can't take all that mortgage off whatever they earn. So a lot of them are saying that they're breaking even at the moment or making a loss due to extra, you know, pressures. And this is something else that's also adding to it. And also they're finding a lot of the tenants now, there seems to be some kind of rumours going around, particularly in the regeneration area, that, you know, tenants are going to need to find somewhere to live in the next 3 to 6 months. So that's causing a panic and causing tenants to want to try and leave to find somewhere else to live, which means less income and less ability to pay this. So I think it is something we need to look at. And I know one of the people that's contacted me has tried to do a payment plan, but they will only do it over the 12 months. They said we can't be flexible with that. It's the 12 months or nothing. And if you do decide to buy some of those properties that are in the regeneration compulsory purchase, they're paying that licensing fee for maybe, depending on when you get them, maybe a year or so, and they're not getting any refund on that either. So they've got to pay it out regardless of whether the properties are going to be bought in the very near future. So I think that there does need to be some kind of correspondence with the landlords. A lot of them feel they haven't been consulted with regarding the licensing. And so I think it is something that we need to look at, because it is going to start causing problems. And if it causes problems for the landlords, that's causing problems for the tenants. The few that I've spoken to that have already put their properties up for sale, not in the regeneration area, you know, that's more tenants that have then got to find somewhere else to live. So it's just something that I think we really need to be looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on a minute, please. I've got 2 left to go yet, and that's Councillor Brooks and... yes, you can. What I'm just going to say, though, is after the last 2 questions, Councillor Galley and Councillor Brooks, we're going to take a 10-minute break. gives people to have a comfort break, and anybody in the gallery who would like to leave when we do have the break, please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. I hear what you're saying, and all I could recommend is that they work more closely with the officers. But I think what we are doing, there is a running theme through this meeting, and it's about the uplift of Blackpool's housing stock. It's about regenerating communities. It's about giving everybody who lives here a chance to live in a property of a standard which is suitable, which is modern, which is energy efficient, which allows anybody who lives in it to thrive. And that, well, not even unfortunately, that is the duty of a landlord, to maintain their properties to that standard. The landlords who will feel the greatest burden under the selective licensing scheme are the landlords where their properties have a number of hazards identified which they have to address. But that is their duty anyway. That's their duty. And all we're identifying is where they have failed in their duty to maintain the property to an appropriate standard. So, and it is unfortunate that they have a limited time in which to do this, but it's something they should have always done. So I just do want to make that clear. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Can I just ask Councillor Gell, keep your question to the point and as you want it answered? And no, I'm not having to go, I'm just saying, so we don't go off tangent, and same as Councillor Brooks. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I promise I will. Councillor Burgess, it's to follow the theme of selective licensing, if I may. I know you would regard it as a success. I've seen comments in the press that you regard it as a success. I am concerned, though, because we've heard tonight about the poor state of some of the housing in this regeneration area in Revo, and about how awful it is. Yet how can it be in such a state when selective licensing has been run in that area for such a long time? Does that not surely make us question how effective selective licensing is itself? How successful the enforcement is? Otherwise, we wouldn't need to demolish those houses. We wouldn't need to hear the comments that we've heard from your colleagues sat next to you. Two don't add up. They're either not great and need demolishing, or selective licensing should be addressing that. We don't need to spend all that money demolishing people's homes. And then final question, if I may, because I've asked it to your colleagues who have housing portfolio responsibilities and associated, will you be attending that meeting tomorrow to listen to the concerns of the residents, bearing in mind your comment just, Councillor Burdess, around working together and regeneration of housing and how much it matters to this town? Will you go and listen to the concerns of the people directly affected?
Councillor Burdess, would you like to reply?
Councillor Galley, I can't comment on the previous scheme. I do feel that you've made a sweeping statement, a very broad generalisation, because I think if we examine the areas that were part of the original scheme, that there would have been an uplift in the standard of those properties. It's inevitable. In terms of the meeting at Revo, I declined for exactly the same reasons Councillor Hugo's declined. I do not know enough, I am not close enough to that scheme to know, to be able to speak knowledgeably on that subject. However, for the same reasons, I will draw closer to that and make sure that I am appraised of developments Thank you, Councillor Galley.
Thank you, Councillor Baudas. Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll come back to the point that we started at right at the start with the question around the roads. As we can see, the uplift that's going on all over the place. Martin's got some great roads. I just want to thank you for the work that's going on with Project Amber at the minute. That will get us that hat trick, improving these roads. We've got all sorts of work at the top of Martin, at Preston New Road and all that, improving the footpaths and the surfaces there. And I just keep reminding our residents, I keep putting it out on my socials, blackpool.gov.uk/potholes, get them in, get them fixed. That's all I really need to say. I'll answer your question, Councillor Galley, before you ask it. I won't be at the meeting tomorrow night. I'm at the Children and Young People's Scrutiny Committee. Although as a lad that used to play in Revel Park, went to Palatine, I get your issues. I'm happy to talk to anybody outside. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Anything to add, Councillor Baudas? No? Okay. We're going to take a short recess now, 10 minutes, so everybody just get some water, have a comfort break. And people in the galley, if you want to leave or you want to get a drink, please feel free. Thank you. Moving on to, oh sorry, did everybody finish? Julie Sloman on Paula Burdis. Sorry, Councillor Sloman. And did we finish the report? We're on to this one now. We've finished that report now. Is it a quick one? I'll let you go then, Councillor Sloman.
Thank you. Councillor Burdis, I think you completely misunderstood my question about the double yellow lines. The double yellow lines have been authorised months ago, but they've just not happened. So I want to see some action around that. And regarding the enforcement, the camper vans and all that, I have exhausted all my options going through the officers, which is why I come to you as the Cabinet member. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sloman. Councillor Burdis, would you like to reply?
I'll go back to officers and get a response. Thank you.
Moving on to Cabinet Member for Young People and Aspiration, Councillor Benson. We have...
Apologies, Madam Mayor, wardrobe malfunction.
That's fine. We have two themes on Councillor Benson's report, and they're inclusion review and inclusion update. Over to you, Councillor Benson. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to see my report. Happy to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Any questions on the first theme? Is the inclusion review? No. No. And number 2 of the review of the report is inclusion update. Councillor Scott and Councillor Cooper. I'm sorry, Councillor Cooper. Thank you, Councillor Scott.
Councillor Benson, I just wanted a bit of clarification, if I may. It might be me being a bit dim, but on page 43, the free school update, the report says that the ongoing challenge has been compounded by the suspension of 2 free schools allocated to us. Could you explain what that means?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want me to... Councillor Cooper, do you want to ask your question? And is it the same subject?
Yes, you do.
Right, I'll just answer that one.
Yeah,
probably about 4 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we were granted funding for 2 free schools. That was halted. A number of Blackpool sites have been identified, Blackpool council sites. One is now being considered in the Martin area. So those 2 free schools will go ahead. We have got the cash equivalent if we want, so there'll be alternative provisions in other areas. If we stay with the original school, one will be a social, emotional, mental health needs totaling 56 pupils. The other school will be for children with medical needs, which is a cover-all title as it provides an educational setting for children with long-term medical needs in addition to a range of other needs that may require significant health support. So we can go ahead with the original plan, or we can have the alternative funding to support capital development in schools, or the provisions in other schools. So we're going to be consulting with stakeholders, our education board, scrutiny. Those meetings were going ahead pretty soon because we do hope to start that consultation with support with neighbours in the area, and planning permission has to be sought. But it is a good news story all around, something we have been waiting for a long time. You can appreciate at the moment our send provision, our send need is skyrocketing, shall we say. So it is really good news that we've actually got these schools now. Thank you. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Councillor Benson. And can you confirm that that provision will be exclusively for Blackpool children?
Yes, I can. I can. That those schools will be for Blackpool children. It's only right that that school will be for Blackpool children. Our send budget, we're having to send young people out of the borough. They should be in Blackpool with their peers and their friends, and it'll be for Blackpool children.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Councillor Cooper.
Sorry, just a query, Councillor Benson. I believe that school attendance is going up, where a child is sent to another school is going down. All I was going to ask was, when a school comes under Ofsted, if they have had to exclude a pupil, does this go against the school in terms of, I don't mean failing, but go against the school? And the reason I'm asking is that I was talking to a teacher who was talking about their exclusion unit. I might not have the right term for that, but the exclusion unit, I understand, is that if we send a child who is being disruptive within our school, we'll send them to your school instead. That means we've now got a vacancy and we'll take a child from somewhere else. The comment I received was, better a pupil you know and can work with than an unknown. Do most schools have exclusion units? And if so, are there many pupils in these units? And does that count as an attendance?
Councillor Benson.
Not quite sure really what you're saying, but we do have quite a few exclusion units. We don't call them exclusion units, we call them alternative provision. Okay, so we're working really hard. So when a child is permanently excluded from school, we have 5 days from the date of exclusion to secure some educational provision, and ideally that would be in our educational diversity unit. However, they are operating at full capacity at the moment. They have specific age groups often and use that alternative provision for those young people. But so in an attempt to try and prevent exclusions, behaviour issues in school, Armfield and South Shore are developing their own alternative provisions. So that's had a significant impact in some of the behaviour, particularly at South Shore, where pupils who were highly likely to be excluded. It's improved attendance and secured much more improved educational attainment outcomes, as we've seen at previous reports. But running alongside that, we've got the team around the school, which is based at Highfield. That's a much more intense, so that's a multi-agency approach who work collaboratively to reduce the number of permanent exclusions for persistent behaviour in the school. And they work with the families, carers, anybody involved in that child to try and find out why that behaviour and put those interventions in. So if that's successful, we're going to expand that, but there is a higher cost implication to that because there is more services, mental health, social care. So the purpose is to better identify the things that prevent some pupils making progress and causing them to be at risk. So yeah, we hope to extend those provisions in some of our other high schools.
Councillor Benson. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd firstly like to say that I'm not speaking on behalf of Councillor Benson at all in the slightest here. I'm speaking in my capacity just as a high school teacher. I just wanted to answer potentially a few of those questions that were wrapped in what you just said there. So in terms of exclusion numbers, when Ofsted visit, is that inspected by the Ofsted, and is that something that weighs against the school? Yes, without a doubt it is. However, for a pupil to be excluded, they must meet a very, very, very high criteria. So there must be a number of significant support steps that school has put in place before they reach exclusion point. And the school has to prove that, all of that, to Ofsted. And if it's not proved to Ofsted, then of course Ofsted would take necessary measures at that point. There are some schools that have alternative provision units, like Councillor Benson said. And I'm a massive advocate, personally, I'm a massive advocate of alternative provision units because not every single pupil is going to be suited to a mainstream setting. So at a school that I work at, we have an alternative provision unit, and for pupils that find it incredibly difficult, whether it is mental health reasons, whether it is family reasons, whether it's other health reasons, they may then go into that unit where they still get specialist teachers coming to teach them, but they then are supported by wraparound care, and that attendance is most definitely taken into account. That is still their school attendance. While a pupil is on roll with a school, they have a full duty of care to that pupil and their attendance as well. There was a little bit where you touched on potential placements where a pupil may get placed at another school. Yes, that does happen, and there are pupils that may get placed at other schools for a change of setting for them to support them as best as possible. So there are some instances where a pupil with the current setting, the friendship groups that they have, may not be the best environment for them. You introduce them to another setting, to another school, and then you see, potentially, it's usually, at the moment, we're doing around a week's period where you see how a pupil responds to a certain setting, but I know there are larger placements around 12 weeks that do go on as well, where you can see how a pupil responds to that. If it's successful, then they may then continue at that school, but then be on roll at that school. But whilst the pupil is placed at another school, they are still on roll with their initial school, and that initial school still has a duty of care because they are on roll there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any general questions on Councillor Benton? Councillor Smith? Oh. Any general questions on Councillor Benson's portfolio? No? Moving on, thank you. On to Cabinet Member for Strategy and Performances, and I do believe Councillor Farrell's going to deliver this. Can't get my words out now. This report, and the themes are adult skills funding, performance management framework, and Blackpool Health detriments research collaboration update. Over to you, Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to present Councillor Ivan Taylor's report. In his absence, he's not very well at the moment, and I will do my very best to answer some of the questions, and if I can't, then I will get a response from him.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell, and I'm sure everybody in the chamber wishes Ivan, Councillor Taylor, a speedy recovery. Any questions on the first theme, adult skills funding? No. Performance management framework? No. And Blackpool Health determinants research collaboration? Well, you got off lightly there, Councillor Farrell. Any general questions? No, excellent. Thank you very much. Moving on to Cabinet Member for Common and Built Environment, Councillor Smith, to present his report. And the themes on this report are new spatial development strategies, business improvement district. Over to you, Councillor Smith. Thank you.
Madam, I just present the report and wait any questions. Thank you.
Any question on the first theme, new spatial development strategies? No. And then business improvement district bids? No. Any general questions? Councillor Galley first, then Scott, and then
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Sloman.
this experience of being mayor will make you a great auctioneer, I'm sure, in the future. A question for Councillor Smith, if I may, Madam Mayor. You are responsible as your portfolio holder brief for growth and prosperity, and have been for some time. I can't remember when you took the portfolio on, but it's been a number of years now. Around 3 or 4 years ago, I met with Growth and Prosperity, a number of senior officers from there, and sadly you weren't in that meeting. It was officers, the chief was there, and we discussed Tramtown in that meeting. And I was promised lots of different ways that Growth and Prosperity would potentially go and look for some funding. This was when Moore was open. The trams were still running, there were still engineers, the workshops were in a better state, the tram shed was still in a better state. We were promised a lot of different things. No levelling up bids were ever made for Tramtown. No other funds, no other bids were ever made for Tramtown. And now we move forwards to a point where those buildings have declined further, the engineers have been made redundant, the volunteers that ran the trams have gone, and we find ourselves in a far poorer position. So my question, Councillor Smith, is why did your team never submit any bids for levelling up or any other funding bids to support Tramtown? And will you make that right and start to support Tramtown by supporting the team, and not with words, but actually a real plan to say we're going to support you with a funding bid? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Smith, would you let you take them up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've seen the DWP building opening and staffed increasingly, and also for those of us who are often in the town centre, the impact that staff coming to that building and working from that building has had on traffic flow, parking capacity, etc. We've now got the Multiversity in the process of being built and the MOD building in the same area. So again, looking at traffic flow and parking capacity, which is already stretched from what I can see, how is the impact, the further impact of those two significantly big buildings that are going to house a lot more workers? How's that impact being considered by the Lancashire Combined County Authority, which has responsibility for the strategic transport infrastructure? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sloman.
Thank you, Councillor Gay. So yes, I can't remember why 3 or 4 years ago why I was not at a meeting. It could be a reason I might not have been invited at the time. I do not know. You know, regarding we was very successful over a number of years on securing many bids through the levelling up process. You know, which has supported lots of development within the Southern Town Centre. Unfortunately, due to the restrictive nature on these bids, the parameters we could bid within inside, unfortunately, Tramtown did not fit inside that criteria, so we could not bid on that because they had such a strict criteria for the bidding process and what we could achieve from that. Okay, so regarding bids for previous bids we made, it was unable to sort of bring in Tramtown or the sheds or that facility into it at the time. So, and regarding anything going forwards, of course, I think Councillor Williams has gone into a lot of detail regarding what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve. And I think I know we're working with the National Lottery and all different organisations trying to achieve what we can achieve through financial bids supporting that, you know. I mean, I don't want to go, we could go down the road of how we've, over the number of years with the budget cuts, it's made it more challenging to achieve, do more than we can do, you know, within the restrictive framework of the money we've been given and reductions over the last 14 years. But where we can and secure external funding to support any organisation, the council will always be there to support and help on there. And I would take it back to my officers and see if there's anything, any other avenue that can be explored that we've not explored on there for you. Okay. Councillor Scott, the DWB building, yes, you can see it's a fantastic building and it's encouraging activity, especially as I think my colleague Councillor Hugo's noted earlier on the award-winning space outside, and you can see the staff who are in there enjoying that space in their lunch hours and that. Yes, and we are in the process of building the Multiversity, you know, and also on schedule for March next year for the MOD to be built, which is fantastic, and it's improving, making that area a business hub. And I'd like to go fast. I'd like to go more. It'd be better to even have more buildings and more service office buildings down the area to support the growth and employment for the town, you know. And to support the transport, that's why we have the tram line up Talbot Road. There's a network from south to north, which takes us right into the heart of the business community around the area. Regarding the county authority transport policy plan, I'll have to take that away. I mean, I do sit on the panel, but it's quite a detailed stuff. I can't recall all processes, what's happening at a moment in time. Maybe something like that I can come back to you with on how that's going to work, but let me come back to you on that one on there for you. Okay.
It's very quick. Yeah, I think, yeah, the tramway goes up there, but that only serves a small proportion of people who live near to the promenade. Those buildings are going to house in terms of work people from all over Lancashire. They're not just Blackpool people who live near the prom, so potentially that could cause quite a problem with traffic congestion coming into the town in cars because they've got no other choice because they live too far away to use our tramway. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. I've got Councillor Sloman and then Councillor Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a housing matter, Councillor Smith, and we've sort of done it to death tonight, and I know standing up now, bringing this up, I'm at risk of getting pelted with rotten cabbages. Councillor Hobson, you spoke beautifully, articulately and passionately about the aspirations for the people in central Revo area. They are the aspirations that we want for everybody that lives and works in this town. I think you're going to miss an opportunity, Councillor Smith, if you don't attend that meeting, because you've spoken tonight where we talk about the aspirations for the future. You've highlighted great things that are happening now, and the people from Revo probably would benefit from hearing about those great things that are happening now, the success stories that you've talked about. So I do think it'd be a missed opportunity if you aren't able to attend that meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Sorry, it was just to give a bit further detail in relation to Councillor Galley's question, because I didn't want the impression to be left there that the council is not supporting these funding bids, because that nothing further could be from the truth. I've spoken with the Heritage Officer, who has confirmed that Tramtown has received a great support, not just in terms of the funding bid, but from officers across the council in very different guises, but also particularly in relation to the funding bid from Rob Latham, I believe is the officer who deals with and supports on funding bids. So that support is there, it's ongoing and will continue. Thank you.
Any other general questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Smith. Yes, of course. Right to reply.
Councillor Sloman, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of detail, and I'd like to sort of pass that information, but due to timing and tomorrow, I'm only unable to attend tomorrow's night meeting. But in the future, where possible, I will attend any meetings with the residents if they want to contact me, and I would pass on to officers and get answers. And if anybody's not been spoken to by the council, please contact us, and we'll make sure there is a response when someone contacts them and speaks to them and tries to reassure them on what can be done to support their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Bird has read about more than... Okay, Councillor.
It's just to say to Councillor Scott, I hear what you're saying about your concerns about congestion, but I feel that you're taking the regeneration in isolation, because there are also developments in the infrastructure which will be taking place at the same time to address those concerns that you have. So I feel that we are on top of that we have anticipated the increase in numbers going through the town, and that we will address that through the infrastructure changes as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burdess. There's no other questions on that portfolio. We're moving on now to Council appointed Combined Authority Representative. Report to the Council. Councillor Baker, Hugo and Jackson, but Councillor Baker is going to present the report this evening. Thank you, Councillor Baker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm incredibly proud to share this report with you, where within are results of the latest inspection by Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services. Lancashire Fire and Rescue Service has received the best ratings of any fire and rescue service in England. They've achieved an unprecedented 6 outstanding and 5 good ratings across all the 11 inspection areas. In fact, they are the only service in the country to be rated no lower than good in any area. This is a truly remarkable achievement, and one that reflects the dedication, professionalism and values-driven culture that all LFA members bring to work every day. So with that, I am proud to present this report. Thank you.
Councillor Baker, any questions on Councillor Baker's report? No? Okay, thank you. Moving on. We're moving on to the Council Tax Reduction Scheme now. Councillor Farrell, you're to move the motion, and seconded by Councillor Williams. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, happy to move the Council Tax Reduction Scheme for this year. There have been no changes from previous years. Reserve the right to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, happy to second and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
nothing to reply to, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move the report. Thank you.
Happy to second the report, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Lady Mayor. Just briefly, an update. I think I've already covered the position on the recruitment of the interim DAS. That's hopefully going to be this week. In terms of the interim Chief Finance Officer, since the papers were written, Mark Golden's confirmed that he's not wanting to stand as an interim Section 151 officer. The news, good or bad, is that we've got a Chief Executive with the appropriate accountancy qualifications who can stand in and until such time as we can actually move to proper appointment. So that's the amendment to the report. The only other thing to say is in relation to the proper officer responsibilities, we talked earlier on about Jocelyn Greenaway moving to Pastures New. She's currently got statutory responsibility for births, deaths, marriages, etc. Until such time as we decide who's going to get that full time, Dawn Goodall in Legal Services has agreed to take on that responsibility. Other than that, I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to second. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And I hope it's not because he's changed his mind or just better check that he knows, maybe.
Is he going to make an entrance?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm very happy to move the recommendation to agree that Councillor Danny Scott is invited to offer himself for election as Mayor at the annual meeting on the 13th of May 2026, and I'm sure we'll have a marvellous year. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will equally be brief. I am delighted to second Councillor Danny Scott to be our next Mayor. He follows a wonderful Mayor in yourself, and we look forward to the speeches on the day. I'm keeping my speech deliberately quick because there is another Councillor Scott in the room who wants to make a few words about him as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not really words about him, and I suppose I ought to declare an interest, really, hadn't I? Personal interest, given that he's my husband. Danny would have loved to have been here tonight. Unfortunately, he had an accident earlier in January, and he's still recovering from his injuries. But he's hugely honoured to have been asked to take on this role and delighted to accept. So thank you, everyone.
Reply. Any against? And any abstentions? The vote is carried that the new Mayor-elect will be Danny Scott. Thank you. Now we're moving on to the motions. Agenda item 10, HMS Achilles affiliation. And Councillor Hoyle, I know this is your your heart, your everything, isn't it? So over to you to move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like a coiled spring all night waiting to introduce this one. I'm going to read this motion because I think it's really quite important for us all to understand the background to it. So the Council notes that following the decommissioning of Blackpool's affiliated submarine HMS Triumph in July 2025, a mayoral meeting was convened, attended by Commodore Tom Knowles, he's the Naval Regional Commander for Northern England, and Lieutenant Commander Mark Rogers, who's the senior naval officer currently for HMS Achilles, where it was agreed that Blackpool Council should write to the First Sea Lord, himself being General Sir Gwyn Jenkins, Royal Marines, seeking a formal civic affiliation to HMS Achilles, currently under construction in the Royal Port of Barrow. This affiliation would continue the strong connection between Blackpool and the Royal Navy, built up over many years with HMS Triumph, thus maintaining and developing the existing local links and community ties. Bit of background on the submarine here. HMS Achilles is a nuclear-powered Astute-class hunter-killer submarine, the final of 7 constructed by BAE Systems, which will provide the most advanced attack submarine ever operated by the Royal Navy. Armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles and Spearfish torpedoes, they are also the most potent. With a crew of 130 officers and ratings, HMS Achilles is one of the most capable of producing its own oxygen and water, and the quietest submarines ever built can circumnavigate the globe completely submerged. The command and control systems, along with the combat system networks and the sonar systems, ensure that the submarine operates virtually undetected for months at a time. Now, for many years, the enduring link between the residents of Blackpool and the nation's maritime heritage has seen close associations with serving and retired Royal Navy personnel and the submarine service in particular, a member of whom is with us here this evening. Thank you, sir. Therefore, the Council is therefore requested to agree to a formal civic affiliation with HMS Achilles to continue this proud tradition and to write to the First Sea Lord to request such. Thank you.
Webb to second the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm proud to second this motion put forward by Councillor Major Hoyle. Blackpool has a long and proud history of association with our Royal Navy, and it is absolutely right that we look to maintain and renew that bond. HMS Achilles represents the very best of today's Royal Navy, a state-of-the-art submarine built within our own region, crewed by highly skilled men and women who serve our country, often in difficult and adverse circumstances. A formal civic affiliation with the Achilles would not just be a symbolic gesture, it would be a living link between Blackpool and those who protect our national security beneath our waves. This affiliation would continue to offer and strengthen the personal and community ties built up over the years with the HMS Triumph, as well as demonstrate, as a council, our ongoing respect and support for serving personnel, veterans, and their families. I fully support and second this motion, and I urge colleagues across the chamber to please support it also.
Thank you, Councillor Webb. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of Councillor Danny Scott again, who's sorry that he wasn't here to support this motion, because what you may not know is he is a veteran, Royal Navy veteran, so he was particularly pleased to see this on the agenda. So, yes, I will certainly be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Scott, any other? No? Right, let's take a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Any abstentions? Any against? I'm sorry, it's getting late now, isn't it? Any against? No? Any abstentions? No, that's unanimous. Carried. Thank you. And you'll be glad to know that concludes the business of tonight's meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. I need to sign these, don't I?